All right, there we go. We are rolling. Okay, so I want to review a little bit of the Rococo stuff, or the late Baroque. This sort of there's a transition into what's I guess what is called neoclassical, which is a very general term. After what was considered to be the excessive ornamentation, excessive decoration, and kind of what might be considered the undisciplined nature of the Rococo. Neoclassicism is sort of this almost like a response to rein it in, and France and England is where a lot of that happens to really try to, like the English especially, try to create what they consider to be a more rational style that sort of takes elements from the Greeks and the Romans, but also from the Renaissance era Italy. So they look back to, there's a style of neoclassicism in England called Neo-Palladianism, and Palladio or Palladio was an Italian architect of the Renaissance era, and he was someone who we looked at one of his like a building of his, and really the idea was to sort of recreate something Roman in a modern sense. And with this new generation of neoclassicism, which is a couple centuries removed from Palladio, you have a new reinterpretation of it. And what neoclassicism or new classicism, it reuses Greek, Roman, and Egyptian, depending on where it is, like which culture. When we talk about Napoleon and the empire style that he promoted, his preference, which is it is a neoclassical style. I think you can say it is a neoclassical style. He uses a lot of Roman and Egyptian elements in combination, and there are reasons for that. So neoclassical, Egyptian, Greek, and Roman. And in a lot of cases, it's mostly Greek and Roman. Sometimes, like the 19th century, some that are more specifically Egyptian might be called Egyptian revival. Revival, neo, it's all kind of the same idea of taking a successful and respected style of the past and bringing it forward into the present and reapplying it. It always changes. There's always some new modern element to it to make it contemporary. Okay. In the Abrams Guide, if you are reading along, you'll find some very useful information. Louis XV is the Rococo, the style that's associated with Rococo. And it follows Louis XIV and the Baroque, and some aspects of the Rococo compared to Baroque it's more inventive, playful, fun. Movement is in there just like Baroque, but it's maybe seemingly less rational, less serious, and it really only lasted for a few decades before, it just got to where it was, it kind of like, I don't know, it's almost like it kind of overwhelmed itself. If you pile it on long enough, eventually you're going to put too much on. So some of the types of furniture, I know I mentioned them last week. I'm going to mention this again. A fauteuil, that's spelled Fauteuil, Teuil. That is an upholstered armchair that has open, like their arms, it's open underneath the arms. And a bergère is an upholstered armchair that is solid, like it's upholstered from the arm down. And I'm going to show you. Right here. Nope. Let me get that right there. So a bergère, which sometimes has an accent grave over the E, you can see that there. People still buy them. You can go to some place and you go to, you're buying furniture for a client. You can say, I need a bergère. They'll know what you're talking about. So it's historical, but it's still a type of chair that is used. And so you can see, you can buy them on Wayfair. That's actually a fauteuil. That's not you can see that's got open underneath the arms. This one too. This guy right here. That's a bergère. Look, it's a website called the Chair Institute. Yeah. So you can see it's solid underneath the arms. That's bergère. Okay. This one, bergère cabriolet. A cabriolet is this kind of like curving leg. Not those are straight legs. I'll show you some cabriole legs. There, right there. This curve on this chair, on that leg, that is a cabriole leg. It's curves out, then back in, then back. It's very nice and graceful. Shows a little bit of movement, a little bit more interesting than a straight leg, straight down. Okay. Now here, these are bergères. This is a fauteuil. That is because it's open it's not upholstered underneath the arm. Okay? Good. Now you gotta there. All right, and close you. It's a feature of ornament from the Rococo era, also from Baroque, is this term ormolu, which is gilt brass, and gilding is when you make something gold. Gilding can be done in different ways. You can apply gold leaf, just like paper. It's like applied like really flat sheets of gold like paper. But the ormolu is a type of gilding that was done, as it says, gilding was applied using the mercury amalgam process, sometimes called fire gilding. And brass was fired with with mercury in a kiln. It's a very harmful, it's a very hazardous process, but it makes brass, it makes the surface look brass-like or bright like gold. So brass is a much cheaper material, and so this technique of taking something that was a cheaper metal and making it look like it's gold was pretty common and pretty popular. And so you'll see this kind of that ornament on furniture. Now here's an example of a commode with ormolu. This is from the Getty Museum in Los Angeles, the J. Paul Getty Museum. And this is also an example of this style. You see this kind of curve out here. If this were a freestanding leg, you might say it's a cabriole leg. But this sort of bulging is it's a technique called Bombay. And if I scroll down, you see here, the swollen, curved form of this large commode is called Bombay. And it was a very sort of interesting, this sort of like, having this sort of like, instead of the edge of it being straight, which would have been easier and less expensive. Why? People had already done that. That's not special. They give it this really beautiful curve of Bombay. You can see there's marquetry on the surface here too. Not really super difficult like we saw with that that one image, but definitely you can see some like it's either different grains, but this is like marquetry right in here. This like wood doesn't look, natural wood does not look like that. Okay. Ormolu. Da, 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 da. Good. We're going to look at this Chippendale video in a little bit. And then also some wallpaper. I think we're going to look at this wallpaper before we look at the neoclassical, because we're going to see wallpaper is now going to start to appear, and this video shows it's a 19th century wallpaper, but it's manufactured in the same way that the 18th century wallpaper would have been made. Like 18th, late 17th century wallpaper would have been made. So wallpaper is this new thing. It's printed from woodcuts, so from like a block, like a flat block that has carved wood design on it, and then it's printed in layers in ink. So watch this. This is only about 3 minutes long, and you just have to read the subtitles. Can we get this bigger? There we go. Okay, so we're going to talk about William Morris later. He'll come in the 19th century, but so you can see these are cut designs on, they're actually like cut designs mounted to blocks. And the Victoria and Albert Museum has sets of blocks that are all printed different colors in layers, and they are used to produce wallpaper designed by William Morris. And again, William Morris is later, but we have video of his wallpaper being printed, which I wanted you to see because it's the same manufacturing technique basically that would have been used in the neoclassical period. So the block is inked. They have registration pins and holes. You line that up and press it. And print the design on the paper. Advance the sheet, re-ink it. Okay, and then they advance the guy hanging it advances the sheet. And so they're printing the first color all on one long strip of paper. And then the second block is used. So the second block is designed to print in coordinated with the first one, and they print over the top of it, that darker olive color. And here is what it looks like when they gradually print the successive layers. So this has 30 different layers for this one wallpaper design. And then they touch it up as they need to. Ta-da! Pretty cool, huh? Before the Industrial Revolution, that's how things had to be done. William Morris, he objected to the loss of quality in the industrial production, and so he really insisted on getting back to doing things in a pre-industrial way. Wait a minute. Oh, that's right. I'll go back up to the top here. Okay. I want to start with this one. So this is a salon in the at a cottage at Versailles, Le Petit Trianon, and it has this the paneling or boiserie, which has these low relief carvings on it that are classic or neoclassical. You see this very, like, the symmetry is very clear. Whoops. Strong symmetry. Here is the bergère and a fauteuil over here with the woven upholstery. Here's with the another view of the same room with the doors open, and of course large mirrors to expand the apparent the size of the apparent size of the interior. Right. And here are some French chairs from the late 18th century. So there we had Louis XIV is identified with Baroque, Louis XV, Rococo. Louis XVI is associated with French neoclassicism. Louis XVI was the last in the line of monarchs. He was the French king that was beheaded during the French Revolution. Okay, I want to get to this one here. So this French neoclassicism, there's a lot there, a lot of surfaces covered. I hope you can see this as like this Roman, what I referred to as grotesque ornament, which comes from ancient, like from the Roman, like this grotto of a house of Nero, where they found all of this really cool, elaborate ornament in the frescoes. Here, this is English neoclassicism, Robert Adam, who we'll talk about him in a little bit. This is Etruscan room in Osterley Park near London. So Osterley Park is an estate where there is a lot of well-preserved architecture and ornament of this period. Etruscan, by the way, is pre-Roman civilization on the Italian peninsula, northwestern, like Tuscany is the northwestern part of Italy. It influenced the Romans. They were before the Romans, and not the same people, but it was almost like they were like well, they were the precursors to the Romans. So Etruscan is sometimes lumped in with Roman for Roman, like some of the neoclassicism. It's not as sophisticated as the Romans achieved. All right, here is some stucco decoration from Rome, and you can see the similarities in just the types of image. Okay, Georges Jacob was a French furniture designer of this era, and here is a fauteuil with Aubusson tapestry. Aubusson is a manufacturer of woven fabrics, of tapestries and carpets. So here, fauteuil, it's got the armchair, but it's open underneath the arm. So we see, comfort is important. When you get to the Baroque, the Rococo, you get into neoclassical. The upholstery is something that gradually becomes improved. Along with luxury, it's maybe not all that, not as useful if a luxurious chair is not comfortable to sit in. You can see here in the paneling on the wall this rinceau with this really stylized pattern of curving leafy ornament. So that is something to tell you that it is referring back to Rome and even back to Greece. This is a little more, maybe a more contemporary looking chair. I really love the this elaborate skirt with the tassels. It's chair for this Comte d'Artois is French nobility, and so it's got to look it's got to look special. Over the top, sure. Pair of Louis XVI armchairs or bergère with the closed underneath the arm. Pretty spectacular, but it's for the French monarch, so it has to be. And here, this really it's got one big curl of a rinceau on the side here, which plays right off of the scroll. That scroll, the scroll goes all the way back to the Ionic capital. And you have this scroll that is also used in the Rococo with that sort of C scroll, and it's the styles are not separate from each other. They pick up elements from each other, and it's a progression really through time. This is another one by Jacob, Herculaneum chair. Herculaneum, if you may remember, was a sister city to Pompeii in the Roman era. And Herculaneum was not as lucky as, well, I guess neither one of them was very lucky. But while Pompeii got the light volcanic stone and ash dumped on it very quickly, Herculaneum got the lava flow. So Herculaneum was eventually also excavated, but it was a lot harder because it got molten rock flowed on it and then cooled and hardened. So, but Herculaneum was known to be there, and so it's if you see this, Herculaneum tells you that it is Roman style. The cross here, you might think Sella-Carillus, that Roman magistrate's chair. The palmette is a bit Greek, but the Romans picked up the Greek also. And here on open back armchair, this would, this is like the little Amorini here. This is sort of like, Renaissance Roman, but with like some updated, like modern upholstery on this cushion. And very restrained in terms of it's like, like not a whole lot of ornament. Those legs are nice and clean. Okay, here's a cabinet for Marie Antoinette. And if you notice these oval little vignettes with the relief sculpture. Here is Filippo Brunelleschi, from the early Italian Renaissance, with this medallion with the blue background and the relief figure. So you don't need to know everything about it. You need to be able to see that and say, oh yeah, that has Roman elements in it, right? Or at least refers back to the Renaissance, which refers back to the Romans. So sometimes their neoclassicism only goes, like what they're referring to only goes as far back as the Renaissance, but the Renaissance being linked to Rome, close enough. Okay, so printed silk. So these are silks printed with, this is like the more of the manufacturing that's still going on that was established by Louis XIV. Okay, here's some Roman stucco. Stucco, by the way, stucco, I think I mentioned, is kind of plastery. It's like it has like lime or gypsum plaster with some kind of like an aggregate binder, and it is applied to a surface and then carved. Basically, it's plaster. So the Roman stucco ornament, that's a little bit out of place, but it does kind of go with this. So here's woodblock wallpaper, a bit simpler than that William Morris design you just saw printed. But you can see where there are different colors, there are different blocks printed. The printing is done in flat layers. So each time you have a color, you need a different layer of printing. So it looks like it is printed on green. And I can see 1, 2, 3, 4, at least 4 layers. This image might give you some idea of the quality of light from candle power. No, go back there. And here is this like garland of fruit and flowers. This is Roman, little Amorini up here, playing around in the medallion. Cabriole leg. And again, as I've said before, I like looking at some of this contemporary artwork because you can see, nowadays, if you wanted to present a contemporary scene, you would make it look the way it looks today. They did the same thing. And in printmaking, like this is most likely an engraving. Yes, this is definitely an engraving. It's really an illustration to show this kind of like what's called a genre scene, or this sort of like, like a sort of like I guess a type of scene. So this is a domestic interior meant to be casual and candid. Okay, so when I spend, we don't have time to spend a lot of time on the history. French Revolution, late 18th century. The monarchy was overthrown, and Napoleon Bonaparte was a general. And just a moment. Oh my God. Yes. Okay. Oh, there we go. It's the kind of thing that happens these days. Where was I? Okay. 1790s were a very chaotic time in French history. Long story short, the French monarchy was overthrown. There was a temporary, brief government called the Directorate that took over. France was still in the middle of fighting wars with the Prussians, who were sort of like they're like northeastern Germans, like Germany, Prussia. France wanted, starting with Louis XIV, France was successful militarily, which is why it became a dominant nation. And Napoleon Bonaparte was a very successful French general, and as you may already know, Napoleon Bonaparte became the head of the government. He sort of like took over that. He took over, and he basically crowned himself to be an emperor, and he considered himself to be like the new. There was like his French Empire. He was going to make an empire of with France, and he saw himself as this continued, like it's like the next Rome. Rome is this, sort of has this like mythical power in amongst Europeans, and even in the United, more amongst the Europeans. Like Rome was such a successful and vast empire. Every once in a while, you get someone comes along and decides, we want to be the next Rome. France did this. Germany did it. That was Hitler's thing. Was that Berlin was going to be the new Rome after they won World War II, and fortunately that didn't happen. And so Roman ornament, Roman style, Roman appearance was very important to Napoleon. Egyptian also. The French and the English were fighting over who would have control of northern Africa, and specifically Egypt, because there's the Suez Canal that connects that was dug that connects the Mediterranean and the Red Sea, that allows you, basically means if you can go through that canal, you don't have to go all the way around Africa to get to India. So along the way, the French, when they sent their army to northern Africa to fight the English, they knew that there were all these antiquities there. They must have, because they sent archaeologists or scholars who would either raid tombs or just catalog some of the things that they found there. So Egyptian and Roman. That's pretty much what you need to know with Napoleon and the empire style, Egyptian and Roman. Now this bed here is Roman. This is, you may remember back, a Roman lectus that has this kind of like scroll curve on the arm. This is no coincidence. So Josephine was the empress to Napoleon Bonaparte's emperor. And so this is like a modern, neo, I guess you could say, in Pompeian style. And in the Palace Fontainebleau, this is the Emperor's reception room. So this is Napoleon's reception room. Here's his throne, seat of honor, raised on this dais here. Here are these plaiance. For someone who came from the military and took control of the government, he really just kind of recreated his own, this sort of, like this splendor of monarchy with this very excessive display of wealth. Here, these standards that sit on either side of his throne, Roman eagle, wreath, and an N for Napoleon. So here, if you sit here in his presence, Napoleon is sitting up here. He has an elevated position. And here, this, this like a lamp table, looks kind of like a brazier where you would put something like, well, I don't know, that looks too nice inside to have fire in it, but here, this is a bronze table with these 3 animal legs, and right there, modern version of the same thing.
Mr. O'Connor?
Yes.
It actually looks to me like it's like a little, like it's not a table, it looks like a bowl on top of it, and then underneath there's like a jar.
It does have a bowl set in it, yeah.
Yeah, it looks like something that you would use like when you get up and wash your face, something like that.
That makes, yes, I see that now. That makes more sense to me. Because you can see that bowl is smaller right here.
Yeah, and there's also, I believe, what looks like
a jug of water down there. It's like a container.
Yep, it looks like for washing up.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. This, especially with with the bed right here. I do like the big, they got the J. I mean, shouldn't we all have these monogrammed upholstered furniture in our homes?
Then people would say that you have a Napoleon complex or something.
Or a Josephine complex. Yes. Well, of course, Napoleon was the word on Napoleon was he was not a large man. He was kind of small, but he was a very successful general, and so people do make this assumption of like he was overcompensating for his lack of physical stature. So the Empire style goes into the early part of the 19th century. So this chandelier from 1810 is in the Empire style. And you can see like this, ostrich feather. And this very Greeky Roman looking vase, manufactured by Sèvres, which is, Napoleon continued the tradition of having royal manufacturing, where there were manufacturers that would make furnishings for the emperor. So here, this, whoops, boop, ba-doop, boop. Okay, so this Empire style of bergère, straight legs, this simple, like kind of like a Roman, like an urn with flowers in it, small little footstool that would slip underneath. And this side chair, which, you can see the legs here is, dang it, stop and get my finger off of that mouse. You can see that the legs and the frame of this chair looks kind of like a bundle of sticks or a bundle of rods, and that's a Roman ornamental or even like symbolic form, really. And there was something from the ancient Romans. It was like a bundle of rods around an axe head, and it had this kind of like cross binding on it, and it is called a fasce, Fasce, and it's this Roman military, really like a Roman military symbol, and the term fascist comes from that symbol because Mussolini in Italy in the 1920s and 1930s adopted that, the fasce as a symbol, and so his group became known as fascists. So it's a Roman military symbol. You can see here, like with the Empire style, the upholstery, like the cushioning, these like really like generous, thick, like the thick seat there and there is a very there's a lot of it's a very like poofy, thick cushion. So the Empire style Napoleon, neoclassical Louis XVI. Okay, now in the very young United States, which had in the 1770s fought against the English for control over over the Americas, the English colonies in America. Jefferson was an educated guy, and the American Revolution, the French Revolution was sort of all part of this, I guess what you might call Enlightenment attitude of they were looking back to the Greeks and the Romans as a model for contemporary society and contemporary government. So this is the Virginia State Capitol in Richmond, Virginia, designed by Thomas Jefferson, and it is a temple. Pretty much, it is a modern building for the time, built to look like a Roman temple. So Roman because it's got the front porch, the colonnade doesn't go all the way around. You've got these pilasters with Corinthian capitals. Pilasters are these built into the wall, or really that are just more decorative on the surface of the wall. And then these columns out here holding up the porch, and there is the small Roman temple that bears a striking resemblance to this in terms of its style and design. This Monticello, Jefferson's home on his estate in Virginia. The Pantheon in Rome, you can see he was aware, is a little mini Pantheon, I suppose. And the Pantheon is recognizable by the large temple, the temple facade with the triangular pediment and heavy colonnade. It's not really elevated on a platform. But then you can see the the big dome behind it. Monticello, there is a plan for it. This is the, So the colonial past, this, I've never, well, even going back to my high school years, the treatment of Africans and native populations of this this continent has never, well, it's always made me unhappy. But and Jefferson was a part of all that. But he was an adherent to this neoclassicism in the Americas was a lot simpler. It had to be. They did not have this they didn't have the industrial base that, or I guess in Europe it would have been a pre-industrial base, but they didn't have the same I guess they just did not have, well, the population was smaller. They didn't have the same materials and in the United States or in the colonial era, it was simpler. You'd see like European styles, but done more simply. Partly because of taste, but partly because of limited resources. That's a better way to put it. Interesting choice for this bed with an opening on either side. I like it. And it's interesting, like just this very smooth, untreated wall surface. Refreshing after looking at all that excessive ornament from Europe. Okay. It is 6:55. Okay, so that's French neoclassicism, and with neoclassicism, I hope by now it's clear, since I've said it many times. It is Greek, Roman, sometimes Egyptian, a reapplication of those styles, of either like the appearance of it, some of the decorative ornament, architectural, definitely. This idea of like the Greek and Roman temple architecture for certain types of buildings, like big government buildings, banks, for a long time was a very popular choice. All right, I'm going to take a break, and we'll take about 10 minutes here. So at 7:06, we will start again, and we'll talk about some English neoclassicism. And I think we're going to look at some, I got about a 9-minute video about Thomas Chippendale to show you, who was important, he's an important person. All right. Stop sharing screen, and we will stop the